All right, guys, this is City Hall right here. And people waiting so it's a city council meeting.
You're gonna see her yelling. Should have.
I went like this.
We'll record some of the speakers. Like I said, they've been a lot of people have been speaking for a recall of the events. And again, that's Bobby Duncan right there. He's the one that he doesn't really like people. I don't understand. He's a crotchety old guy.
All right, moving on to public comment. If there are speakers that would like to speak, please fill out a comment card that's located in the back of the room to my right. Hand it to our city clerk over here to my left, and you will have an opportunity to speak here at the podium. I'm reminding everybody that the time limit for public comment is 3 minutes. And in order to allow for a more orderly public meeting, and in keeping with state and local law, the public meetings of the City of Yucaipa Council will, from here on out, be conducted in order and civility in mind. Any person who disrupts, disturbs, or breaks up this meeting will be asked to leave. Under city rules of procedure for the city council meetings, disrupting the meeting includes speaking out of turn, stamping feet, whistles, yells, or similar demonstrations such as clapping. This is a public meeting that will be conducted with civility and decorum, not a sporting event where each side of an issue tries to be louder than the other. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes as previously stated and will be strictly adhered to. After consulting the city staff, I've confirmed that seating and time is not allowed. Please remember, we're all neighbors. We are passionate about the agenda for the day. We're passionate about our opinions and beliefs, but we need to treat each other with respect. We will listen, courtesy, and respect to all those speaking. We ask that you do the same. So our first public speaker is Dr.
So, in order to get my 3 minutes in, first thing is law and order. If we're going to have order in our council meetings, there's two things I would ask. One, I don't think political party belongs in this meeting. It has nothing to do with what we talk about. So if you accuse someone of being one side or the other, it's their privilege, not something we should accuse them of. Second thing, I think that rebuttals should stay within the public comments or the project. If you bring additional things to the rebuttal, then you're adding comments that theoretically we should be allowed to answer to, but if not, it should at least not be allowed. Especially if the rebuttal adds threats to what is there. So, I think that the last two meetings, my perception was that some of the city council got bullied, and I don't think that's a good thing. We advise our children not to have it allowed, but you were, in my mind, bullied to do what the particular person wanted you to do. You said, what can we do? Well, you told me that we got a great city manager coming in and a great city attorney. I think they should be able to hold things to a point where you don't get bullied to the point where they get whatever they are asking for. I think using seniors to get density bonuses is one thing, but not to address possible dangers to them is another thing. Using students again to, and say affordable housing, we need it to get again additional density is something else. But again, 10% is only 17.4 apartments. I think we have a greater need than that in the city. If he truly was thinking about affordability, he should have increased that to at least 30 or 50. But again, that's up to him. The project was brought up again because there was a disturbance. I listened to the tape. I didn't really hear a great disturbance, but again, that's my perception, and you could feel differently. There was also a myth that this particular person, entitlement specialist, was intimidated by the crowd in the comments. Those of you who know him, especially our Mayor Pro Tem, knows that he's not a person to be intimidated. So to use that as an excuse, if it was an excuse, should not have been. So I urge you to not be bullied again, because they can get whatever they want as long as they bully. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Mayor, council people. What I'd like to address council on is the idea of these mandates. I hear this at the end of a lot of the meetings, and what it adds up to is, as long as you're doing, the council is doing, what the state is telling you to do, then you're fine. But if you're not, then all of a sudden you're being intimidated, you're being threatened, you got threats of lawsuits, and they'll take away your ability to take and do anything. Well, that's why. If you are actually being told by the state what needs to be done, why are you guys getting paid? Why don't you just take it and quit and let the state take it over? If you're marching in lockstep with the state to take and pass things that you know shouldn't be passed, then why are we here? We ask you to take and look into things, and we know, like the apartment building, that it's in a bad area, it's in a bad spot. If you have a good 800 students into that school, and you're trying to take and work all that traffic out in front of the school, that's a big problem. Not only that, but those roundabouts, that's going to be a total disaster. They take it and they won't allow big rigs to go through, they won't allow big dump trucks to go through, and they're taking all the side streets. So students are taking and walking the side streets with the big trucks rolling through, and we're just shuffling it off to different areas. It's still going to be one big bottleneck mess. They brought up the idea that Huntington Beach was being sued. Well, obviously then, they weren't being just taken over by the state. They still had a fight to put back and forth on. Okay? As I say, you're irrelevant at that point. That particular project is in the works for 5 years. 5 years, and so many of the council and everything just wouldn't allow this high density. Suddenly, here we are. Oh yeah, we can have it now. This state is mandating it. We have to do it. Why there? Isn't there any other 8-acre properties around all of Yucaipa to take and put apartments in that would be a whole lot better? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My son thought it was hysterical that I was being called a liberal. But whatever. What concerns me is corruption, not politics. I watch on the news each night as our president ignores our laws. He has an open southern border, and he knows he can get away with it because he can, because he's the president. He's done quite a bit of ignoring the laws because he knows it will take too long for it to get to the high court. And by the time it gets there, his agenda will, for the most part, be reached. He actually admitted that over this extension of the no eviction issues. It puts our country's security at risk with the border open. It allows illegal drugs to pour into our country, and I can't do anything about that. But watching our city ignore our laws, I can at least say something here. I'm going to read State Law 8314A. It is unlawful for any elected state or local officer, including any state or local appointee, employee, or consultant, to use or permit others to use public resources for campaign activity or personal or other purposes which are not authorized by law. That makes it illegal for you to put your silly myth versus facts on the city webpage. Mr. Mayor, are you supposed to ignore the law? You are in law enforcement. You aren't supposed to say, well, maybe so, but what are you going to do about it? Because that's what it feels like. With all the opposition you are getting from the city communities about your high-density housing proposals and use of one developer, it would stand to reason that the council might pull back or wait or reconsider about why there is so much opposition. However, no, you guys are all in on what it is you want to do. You don't seem to care what anyone wants or thinks, and Mr. Duncan, we know what you hear. It's all blah, 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 blah. You worked very hard to elect your 2 new council members, and you put the city's budget in jeopardy by replacing our city manager as your first act. Now you have to pay a large severance to Mr. Casey. If you count that severance, which is Mr. Casey's salary, and you add in Mr. Mann's salary, we are actually paying $559,420 for a city manager for this year. That is not saving us money. That is before you add in the benefits for both, and that's at least $100,000 a year each.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Mayor Beaver and council members, an anonymous letter was mailed to everyone who signed the recall petition. Its intent was to intimidate and terrorize the signers of the petition. It reminded me of the ghost stories that we used to tell each other around the campfire when we were kids. Your address was printed in the newspaper. All the bad guys now know where you live. Your information can be shared with others who may not have your best interests in mind. Oh, look out. The boogeyman is gonna get you. What a lame attempt at intimidation. Everyone knows that anyone can find addresses on the internet. Plus, you make them state their address out loud every time they speak at a council meeting. Addresses are not secret. Navy SEALs are taught if a shark is swimming towards you, don't swim away. Don't act afraid. Stand your ground. And if a hungry shark comes at you for a midday snack, summons up all your strength and punch him in the nose. You are like the hungry sharks waiting to find the poor innocent victim to chow down on. I'm here tonight to tell you, send as many intimidating letters at you as you want. We're going to stand our ground. For every intimidating letter, every false press release, every insulting comment from Bobby Duncan's mouth, I'll be down here at this microphone, symbolically punching the sharks in the nose, and so will a lot of other people. We won't back down.
Thank you.
Somebody needs to speak louder here. I'm sure nobody back there heard what you said or what this gentleman said. It's just impossible to hear.
We'll speak louder, ma'am. I apologize.
That's all
The
right.
floor is yours.
And I'm here to remind you again, please follow the money. The recall movement started on January 9th with the devious manner in which Justin Bieber, Bobby Duncan, and Matt Garner forced Casey's departure, calling it a retirement. How stupid you think we are. I doubt that Duncan did this on his own. The new city manager was the brains behind the coup. I have been running a lot about city manager Chris Mann, the political operative. According to a recall article I read on the Sentinel by Mark Goodluck on its website, Man Communications celebrates itself essentially as a representative of developers in development interests seeking to move building proposals past the planning process and get them approved. In the last month, City Council approved 2 very controversial developments that have been previously denied. Why? I urge you to do your own research. Regardless of how it started, our new city manager has a big red flags surrounding him. I hope they aren't using taxpayers' money to do so. I urge everyone who cares about our beautiful city to follow the money. You'll see very soon who has the most to lose. Follow the money.
Thank you, ma'am.
On May 8th, I witnessed what seemed to be an outreach of support for our city council. It was a counter-protest to the Yucaipa group, State Yucaipa group. As I walked from my car to the front of the city hall, I saw maybe a handful of faces I knew and about 90% I didn't. It seemed strange to me as where did these people come from? Shirts that read, "I love Mayor Bieber," and signs stating, "We support city council and don't believe the lies we're all being carried around." I respect their right to protest without interruption and continue to look for familiar faces, which I could not find. With that being said, I sat in the second row behind 2 maybe high school boys that each held sign, one reading, "Recall is all lies," and the other reading, "We love Mayor Bieber." I stayed quiet and listened to these 2 joke and giggle amongst themselves. But what got me is they played video games and text the entire time the meeting was going on, like it was a big joke. It reminded me of a union strike where the union pays the picketers and they have no idea what they're picketing for. They're just there to make noise. It seems like this was a high school recruiting party hired or approached by some political marketing agency. I take the recall very serious, and I'm offended once again by Bobby Duncan's words, calling the recall group a Democratic group with liberal agenda, wanting to turn Yucaipa into another San Francisco. Absolute lies in that statement. Democrats in your district should be offended by your comments, as should be the Yucaipa group. Our efforts are to stop you and the current council from doing that exact same thing, turning this town into San Francisco. That's on you, not us. Mr. Duncan, I'm a strong Republican with good conservative values. You and your scare tactics to the citizens of Yucaipa disgust me. As a matter of fact, your shadow, Matt Gardner, identifies as a Democrat. Should he be offended by your statement? Or wait, he's a Republican. I mean a Democrat. I don't know. He goes both ways. So he plays both sides, confusing voters. Maybe you should ask him if he is a Yucaipa business owner. He's not. He lied on his application for council. Maybe you should ask him if he believes in rural living in Yucaipa, like he campaigned for, but voted for Heaps Serrano project and smaller lots and zoning, or the other Heaps project, 172 unit complex next to the Calamasa Elementary. Better yet, why don't you let him speak for himself and be his own man? As District 1 hears nothing from him and allows you to badmouth his district every 2 weeks, never once stepping up and standing ground. But that doesn't surprise me, as Heaps, Duncan, Mann, Snodgrass Farms seem to be calling shots from behind the curtain. Your scare tactics regarding the recall have no one worried, as the Save Yucaipa group, transparencies and ethics outshine the city council and the new city management team. Stay strong, Yucaipa. Support the recall.
Our greatest fear has been realized. City Council is allowing a political operative to run the city of Yucaipa as he sees fit, using all of his dirty tricks that he's known for. Whose great idea was it to send out an anonymous, deceptive, and threatening letter to the 200 citizens that signed the intent to recall? If you hoped to create fear and intimidation, I'd like to inform you that based on the comments I'm reading on social media, you did just the opposite. Not only are we getting inquiries on how to sign the next petition, the monetary donations are coming in. Be advised that numerous complaints have now been filed by the recipients of that letter with the district attorney, attorney general, and grand jury based on perceived voter intimidation. These are not a small group of people throwing temper tantrums, as was printed in that inane letter, but intelligent, astute, and engaged citizens coming together to reclaim our city. We've been authorized by the city clerk to move forward and circulate petitions and collect signatures, and we're doing it. That same city clerk, who was brought to Yucaipa City Hall from Canyon Lake by Chris Mann, is using our tax dollars to file a civil lawsuit challenging our reasons for the recall. This is another attempt to thwart our constitutional right to ask the voters if they want to replace 3 council members. All we are doing is asking to put forth a ballot and let the citizens decide. If a majority of voters don't agree with our statements, they will vote accordingly. To Joe Cordetto, our new Director of Government Affairs, Public Information Officer, and golfing buddy of Chris Mann, I find it alarming that you would make a statement in your myth versus fact chart that false allegations were submitted to the Fair Political Practices Commission and the District Attorney's Office and no evidence of wrongdoing was found. You also stated that although everyone is entitled to their own opinion, people are not entitled to their false and misleading statements. Be very mindful that the DA's office has not concluded their investigation and found no evidence of wrongdoing. Why would you make that false statement? To quote Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch, the concentration of power in the hands of so few may be efficient and sometimes popular, but it does not tend towards sound government. We, the people of Yucaipa, demand and deserve sound government. We will remain ever vigilant, intense, unremitting, and watchful.
Thank you, ma'am. So the next 4 speakers are speaking on item number 9, but don't have the ability to wait until item number 9 is heard. So I will call them in order during public comment as per their request.
Okay, guys, let's go out here so I can talk. I thought I would just cover that tonight. As you see, there's quite a bit of dissension in Yucaipa, and a lot of it has to do with the new city council. Well, there's a lot of dissension, and a lot of it has to do with the so-called retirement of Ray Casey, who actually was a great leader in the city. I don't know why they replaced him. But as you heard, some of them have said, well, he retired, but it really appears strongly that he was replaced and not retired. So, was it a political move? Was it a coup? A lot of people in the city of Yucaipa are asking that very question. If it was a coup or if it was a, because if he was exiled, then, could that be political corruption? I don't know, I'm trying to walk and think, and that's like trying to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. I can't do both. But I just wanted to throw it out there that, that's kind of what's going on right now in the city of Yucaipa, that there's a lot of dissension in regards to the replacing of Ray Casey and a lot of disagreements with the new city manager that was brought in. Now, as far as Bobby Duncan, yeah, he's just in his own world. I don't know where the hell he comes from, but he was the one again that said, at the one city council meeting when the mayor was absent, he said, okay, I don't want to hear a bunch of wah, 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 garbledy-goo, same old thing repeated, and I can't remember the verbatim, but it was to the effect of, I don't want to hear the same old, blah, blah, blah. The mayor might put up with it, I'm not. And I'm thinking, this is a city council meeting, right? And at a city council meeting, you have the right to speak freely, as far as I understand. Or maybe you don't. I don't know.